Hello, everybody. Here's Natasha back again for another episode at the Feminine Space podcast. And we have Cindy for our, oh, so sad, second to last episode. But it's a great timing because the holidays is coming up anyways. And I do want to give you a break, Cindy. So last week, we talked about nature and all the learnings and lessons that are out in nature if we pay close attention and we go out there on our walk in that right state of mind. So Cindy and I decided this week to talk about the subject of letting go. It's kind of an extension of the lesson that we learned from nature last week, which is the leaves are falling, especially now in this season, or maybe they've already fallen, and this taking this next step to accept how things are. And when I mentioned to Cindy how we can bring this all together, I realized that when I go into the woods, I let go of my expectations. I let go of what I feel is perfection or is correct. Because wherever the mushroom blooms, or if a flower on the side of the path is growing or blooming, I'm grateful for that, and I think that's perfect. So there seems to be within me this type of acceptance and love for nature just the way it is. So I'm going to hand it over to Cindy and ask you a little bit of your thoughts on letting go and how all of this comes together.
You know, Natasha, when I was thinking about the whole subject of letting go, I got so excited about talking about it because most of my clients, when they come to me, they're talking about letting go of past hurts, past disappointments. And it's usually, pretty heavy stuff, disappointments and hurts from family members, from relationships, from friends, all of that kind of thing. So deep wounds, and that's what they're working at letting go of. But as I started contemplating letting go during one of my meditations, I really started thinking about how letting go is something that we're doing constantly all the time. And when we look at the larger picture of letting go, everything just makes a little bit more sense. So for example, for much of my life, I was sort of hanging on to this idea that I had to be a certain way. And as I grew older, that expectation and that hanging on to that idea of how I should be, note the word should, it started falling away. I started letting it go. And now I feel the happiest I've ever felt in my life because I've really let go of these expectations about who I should be. And now I can just be who I am. And one of the side effects of that is I found my sense of humor. So for my whole life, I thought, I'm not very funny. And my sister always said, oh my God, Cindy, you're so funny. And no, I'm not. I'm not very funny at all. But really, it was just I had this expectation for myself, or I had this lack of freedom inside that kept me in a very serious state. So letting go happens in so many ways in our lives. It's letting go the expectations of who we should be. One of the more beautiful aspects of letting go is when we let go in that exquisite state of love. And so often when we're in love or we're just falling in love, we allow ourselves to let go at first, and then we stop. It's like when you're falling asleep. And you realize you're falling asleep and you shake yourself awake. That happens when we're in love too. We shake ourselves awake and we go, oh no, we can't trust. Oh no, we've been hurt before. We don't want that to happen. Oh no, I can't let myself be that vulnerable. But when we let go of those ideas, we fall deeper and deeper into a beautiful relationship. And of course, we have to make sure that the person with us is also falling deeper and deeper with us. Otherwise, you get kind of a toxic relationship. But these are the ways that letting go become really deep. And when you talk about walking through a forest and not having that expectation, my sister always has this saying, not all the trees in the woods are the same tree and or the same species. And it's so true. All the trees are different. Everything just happens the way it happens. And we love each tree no matter how it looks. the big ones, the small ones. We just love all the diversity. And yet we don't love the diversity of ourselves, particularly as women. We have these ideals that are in fashion magazines, that are on TV, and particularly North American TV. I mean, at least European TV, people are more real. But over here, most of them are all like, beautiful models with perfect bodies. And we get stuck and hung up on that expectation that that's how we need to look. And we don't love ourselves if we don't look like that. And that's an idea that can bring a genuine sense of internal freedom when you let go of that expectation that I should, again, note the word should, I should look like this model, I should look like this woman, I should have a body with slender hips and no breasts, and be, 5'8" and up. And not everybody's like that. Sure, there's lots of people who have these naturally beautiful bodies, and then there's lots of people who have to work hard at it. And then there's lots of people who just have a naturally different shape. And, we're like a bunch of trees in a forest. We're all different and we look different. And I would love it if we could learn how to let go of that expectation, of that need to look like every other tree, woman in the forest, and be ourselves and really love ourselves for it. In the same way that we can love all the different looking flowers and all the different looking trees.
And the great thing about letting go is that once we do, life, like you said, gets easier, you're happier, you're less worried, you're less stressed out about what everyone else thinks, including yourself. Those self-judgmental thoughts and ideas that come, they matter less. And for me, when it comes to my work, because I'm so within my work that it reveals lots of different sides of myself. And sometimes I notice that when things get more and more difficult, like when things get harder and harder, then I realize that something must be off. There must be something that I must let go of, because that railway is not gliding smoothly anymore. And then that's when I kind of get this feeling, okay, this difficulty, maybe it's actually not even in the problem I'm trying to solve or the situation that's happening in life right now. Maybe it's what's internally happening, what I'm bringing to this, and maybe it's what I'm holding on to. So those moments of resistance, those moments of this is really hard, I don't know if it should be this way, that's when I realize, okay, I gotta be a bit more still, I gotta listen, and I gotta connect back and feel, okay, what is off here, and what can I possibly let go of so that the train and the railway goes forward smoothly again.
That's so funny that you said that, because I picked up on your word easy. Life goes easy. And that's just really another expectation that our life should be easy. It's not always easy. Some people just do sail through life and they don't have a lot of challenges. It's usually because they're not challenging themselves. But it's that expectation that life should be easy that kind of leads us into that place of intense struggle where it feels awful. If you have the understanding that some things are going to be a struggle, some things are going to be difficult, not everything in life is easy, then we can flow with the challenge rather than fighting it and like going, well, how come my life isn't easy? It should be easy. Well, sometimes things are a bit challenging, and that's okay. That's where we really build our internal resources when we become greater than we thought that we could ever be. So I've kind of let go of that expectation that life is always going to be easy. And you're right in that it does begin to flow when you start looking at, okay, what is it that I'm bringing to this that isn't working? Well, sometimes it's merely the expectation that it should be easy.
This reminds me of, I don't know if you've heard of this, but there's this book called The Secret. And it's about I think is a Buddhist saying, and it's a really deep one. And sometimes it stumps me because I reflect back on, okay, how would this apply in life? And I go a little bit crazy in my head. But I want to bring it up because it's a Buddhist saying that goes, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And I thought, okay, how can you be, in pain and not suffer? How can, things be hard, but you don't feel like you're suffering? How does that work? And I questioned it and I questioned it and I was thinking, how can this play out in my life? And at one time I was at a chiropractor, I think. And at the end, after the massage on the spine, he does this neck twist thing, which is just awful. It's painful. And this pain is inevitable. I can't avoid it. This pain that's going to come from twisting my neck in the proper way. But anyways, so he twists to the left and he twists to the right. So I get twisted twice at least. And then the first time I just felt him and I could already feel myself going, I know this feeling. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. And I feel myself tensing up and I go, ow, it did hurt, just like I thought it would. And I thought, oh, wait a second. There's that saying. How could this work? I'm like, okay, you know what? I know the pain's going to come. This time I'm going to exhale into it and say, I accept it. I know it's coming. It's going to be okay. There's going to be pain. So he twisted my head, clack, 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 to the right. And I was like, wow, that didn't really hurt as much. And that's when I realized that I was doing something to make that pain even greater. So I was suffering even more because I was expecting it. I was tensing up. I was thinking that it was going to be, painful and all that kind of stuff. So I was adding on to my own suffering. And in that moment, I actually realized, oh, that's what the saying means. And this is sometimes what we do to make things harder. When the pain is there, we add on these stories. And, when you say that life gets hard, when there's going to be pain and we can't avoid it, sometimes we also need to let go and be like, okay, it's coming. And that's it. Sometimes there's nothing we can do about it. And that actually, in this case, made my pain less.
Oh, you know what? I love that story and I love that saying because it is such a deep saying and it's exactly embodies what we're talking about today. And that is that letting go of the idea that something should be a certain way and the kind of suffering that brings. I often talk about water and rivers that are flowing because that's the kind of way that we want to live is in flow, the natural flow of life. But even in the natural flow of a river, there are rocks that provide resistance. And it's only when the river flows and comes into contact with a rock, unlike us, where we go, okay, we have to push and we have to move the rock, the river says, it's okay, rock. I see you there. I feel you. That's cool. It gives me a new feeling and I'm just going to move around you and go on. And that's the amazing thing about water is it has the ability to just move around and take the easiest route to keep flowing. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to be. That's what we want to let go of so that we have a genuine internal freedom. And I think that's ultimately what we all are working towards is that sense of freedom inside, freedom to be who we are, freedom to love ourselves the way we are, freedom to love each other without worrying about whether we're going to be injured again or hurt and that the love will help us to grow and evolve as human beings. So internal freedom, I think, is perhaps the goal of what this whole session is about.
It's really beautiful because it also tackles the misconception that this whole self-love and self-care is self-centered. Actually, the moment we let go of all this stress and all this turmoil of caring what everyone else thinks and how we should be and all these expectations and all these things, we actually focus less on ourselves. So it's actually not at all a self-centered thing. We're actually letting go of all these thoughts, all these worries of ourselves, actually.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because there are times when we can seem and we can be rather self-centered in sort of dwelling on our pain and what we've gone through in life. And that is kind of self-centered. But when it is to become free of that so that you have that ability to give, and the more free you are, the more free you are to give love to others and care for others. And that's where you transcend that sense of selfishness, and it evolves into selflessness.
Wow, that's perfect. That's perfect. I want to stop right there because time is almost up.
Okay.
But you also mentioned such a beautiful thing, which is relating this letting go to actually love and this expansion of the self the moment we let those chains go and let all these thoughts that hold us back. So would you be open to doing a meditation for that, for this expansion once we do let go into love and into compassion?
I would love to do that. And it really also resonates with what we did last week and the week before, which is that place between being unique and being a self and a physical self, and being connected and interconnected into the world and the universe. So I'd love to do that, yeah.
That's amazing. So you'll find that uploaded in the next few days at femininespace.com/letting go. So I also want to mention that we've given out so many free meditations and PDFs and all these guides. So once Cindy and I wrap up our last talk on this podcast, we're going to be packaging everything beautifully into a course onto Udemy. And once that's up, you'll find it at the show notes. And you can just, play all these podcasts, replay all these videos, use the worksheets, and we'll get some bonus material in there too. So you don't have to, search each page, download it, find it in your email. You can just go to Udemy, and I'll give you the link at the show notes afterwards once we launch it at the end of this year or next year, and then you'll be able to have it all at one place. So I'm really happy to do that, Cindy, because we have so much material, and sometimes we just need this organization and this really easy place where we can just log in, and we can play a video after another, do those meditations, go back to it, and have it in this really accessible format. So we'll give you all the details when later on in the episodes and also on the pages on the website. So that's it for this week. And what a beautiful talk, Cindy. Thank you so much. And we'll be back again next week. So everybody, let's flow with self-love and ignite your natural power. And in this case, it means letting go what you don't need. So talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody.